If you have a recording agreement right now, congratulations. That means you've received an offer. You hopefully got through the initial kind of negotiation point, and now you're looking at your potential agreement to partner up with a record label. That's fantastic. Now, what I need you to understand is that when you sign a contract, you are signing something that may tie you to another company for a long time, a lot longer than you might even realize. And then you never know how things are going to go. Even if someone's really courted you, I mean, it's like dating analogy. I always use that. Just because it went great on the first date or the first 10 dates, it doesn't mean that getting married is the thing to do. So if you're going to get married to the record label and you're going to sign a contract, please understand a few really important things, which I'm going to discuss in this video. As an entertainment attorney of 9 years, I have done thousands of recording agreements on both sides. I've represented the artists, I've represented producers and record labels, and I know all the things. And I know all the ways that they try to get you. So we're going to discuss it in this video. So number one, you got to read the fine print. Now you're like, what do you mean? I mean, basically the entire contract is fine print, but the most important material terms of the contract are things that just get glazed over. And I don't understand this. If you are reading this agreement for yourself, then I need you to really pay attention to these specific things, because where your eye is probably going to go is how much money are you getting? When are you getting paid? How long is the agreement? You know, some basic things, but here's the stuff that gets missed as fine print details. So the first is going to be options. Second, the termination, not just the option in the term, but the termination as well. So what we're looking at when it comes to the advancement and the option, which I'm going to discuss in a second, the option is going to be how the record label extends the contract. Okay, so you have an initial agreement and they're like, hey, we're just going to do one album. Okay, just one album, but we're also going to have like 5 options. What an option does is that it extends the contract. And the way that the record label pitches this to you is that they say, well, it's so that we can keep working together and we'll keep paying for your career and we'll keep investing in you and keep releasing albums. And so they present it in a way that's kind of sexy and where you'd be like, yeah, of course, I want you to be able to do all these things for me. What you don't understand is that this is the investment protection for the record label. It's their way of making sure that you can't go anywhere. Because what they're doing is you're signing an agreement for the terms of the relationship, and then they lock you in based on today. In a year, if you're doing really well and you've had some viral song and your fans are growing and all these things, you're worth more. In 2 years, same thing. In 3 years, same thing. So when you sign the agreement now, you get locked in at your base rate. And then with these options, they get to keep extending the contract. So then besides that, what we're also looking at in conjunction with the option is, well, how long is the base agreement? So if they're like, oh, it's just one album. Well, one album, a whole cycle of that, it might be, well, 12 months from when you actually release it. So you have to go make the thing. Maybe that takes 9 months. Then you release it, then another 12 months have to lapse, and then they have like 5 options. So you're in a relationship with this lady in our girlfriend's relationship scenario for a really long time, okay? And maybe during that time, things don't go well. They aren't working for you, they aren't responding to you, they aren't giving you statements or royalties. All kinds of bad things can happen. So it's really important that you read the fine print. Number 2, you need to determine what your deal breakers are. What are the things that you just aren't cool with? And you need to be super clear with that up front, because if you're not, you're just going to end up wasting time and money. Because hopefully at some point, right, you're sitting down, you're reading this contract, maybe you're even paying someone else to look at it for you as well, a professional, right? Before you do all of that, you need to have a discussion with the label and say, look, like if one of my things is I won't accept any deal that is less than $100,000, because maybe you know record labels are going to own your music. And so if that's a deal breaker, don't waste your time. If they're not going to offer you that, don't go any further. If maybe your deal breaker is that you don't want to give up ownership of your music, and the record label is like, well, no, we need to own the music, done. Stop talking. So, you need to kind of have an idea of what your hard lines are, and so that way you can save your time and your money. Number 3, you need to understand how the royalties and the advances work. Okay, so in this scenario, you're like, I'm not going to take any deal that's less than $100,000. And then the label's like, cool, we'll pay you $100,000. Well, that's an advance. And we use that word advance. It's not a gift. It's an advance because it's a loan. The label is loaning you money that you have to pay back before you get paid any royalties. All right, so your royalties are going to be what you make on the back end from streaming revenue, maybe licensing placements. And so you need to make sure that you just understand $100,000, it's not that much money, okay? And what you're being offered, maybe even less than that. You're going to make sure that you just understand that just because there's money tied to the offer Who cares? If you need the money, if you're excited, cool, do it. But understand that this is just a business deal. If they're offering you something, and worst case scenario, they're offering you nothing, which also happens, right? A record label may approach you and say, you're the next big thing. We can do all this great stuff for you. And so they hand you a recording contract and they're not even giving you in advance something just to think about. So I'm saying just don't get starry-eyed because someone is offering you money, okay? So also look at the royalties. How much are you making in the royalties? Because with major labels and even large independent labels, they don't pay you very well. And you're going to get maybe 12%, maybe upwards of 18 to 20% if you're just a big rock star and they're really excited to sign you. And some smaller independent labels, they tend towards more 50-50, so that's cool. But again, it doesn't matter if you are signing a deal with a big advance, because you're not going to get paid for a long time because the label is going to pay itself back first. So next, when it comes to kind of looking at your record label offer and deal, you really do need to avoid as much as possible not only the options, which we talked about, because again, the options are how the label is going to keep extending the contract forever and ever and ever, but not to avoid just falling into the trap of the carrots. Okay, so carrots just meaning these are the things that they use to get you to sign. Now, with my clients, I've had labels do all kinds of things where they fly people out or they fly the potential artist or band to where the label rep is at, and they'll take you out. They'll take you out to dinner, to, other places with pretty ladies. They'll take you all the places, drinks, drugs, like whatever. And so they do that because they're trying to show you a rock star lifestyle. And, that's one. Another might be that they're offering you money. Another might be that they're offering you just an opportunity and they're like, hey, we represent this other artist. And so if you sign with us, we're going to be able to make this thing happen. So you just need to be aware of your negotiation power. So avoid falling into this trap in that you don't have any negotiation power because you just kind of were doing this way too early. I think that everyone needs to kind of take a step back and look at their project and see where they're at. Okay. And if you don't have any negotiation power because you're like, I don't have anything. I don't have a lot of fans. I don't have a lot of music. That's not good. I need you to be in a position where like you're hustling and you've built your fan base and you're doing your thing with no one involved. Because now you're in a fantastic negotiation power to basically be like, no, it's going to be A, B, and C. These are my non-negotiables. Take it or leave it. So avoid kind of those traps. And then, of course, when it comes to the contract, please get an entertainment attorney. I can't tell you over the thousands of contracts that I've reviewed and the disputes that I have also resolved related to some of those agreements, how much pain and suffering could have been avoided if the artist, the producer, the band had just gotten an attorney to review their contract up front. They're like, they'll contact a law office and someone might say it's going to be $500 for me to review it. It'll be $1,000 for me to review and revise and negotiate your contract. You don't understand that if you don't do that and really protect yourself, you don't know what the contract says, they're taking advantage of you, all of a sudden now you're paying $10,000, $50,000 collectively over the years to come because you got screwed because you just didn't know what you were signing. So definitely make sure that you get someone who knows what they're doing. Don't just get any attorney. It needs to be someone who knows this stuff. So definitely get that help. So navigating record contracts is really tricky. And so I've actually done a full-length video. I'll be sure to link it down for you guys in the description, but just breaking down how like a traditional record label contract looks like, which is what a lot of these labels follow. And so you can kind of look at it, with eyes of and a lawyer, being a lawyer yourself, right? And you can understand what it is saying. All right. And if you need help, always feel free to reach out to me on Instagram at Top Music Attorney.